Hello everyone, here are the biggest changes from manga to anime in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 3. This episode starts off with some anime-exclusive deep-sea shots of Riko before quickly reminding us about Kuroi's situation, and then on to the start of Chapter 70 to explain how it all happened, and for Gojo to put a game plan together. A game plan which is no longer put together on a rooftop, but in a nearby alleyway where Riko looks like she's in the timeout corner. But after some waterworks, only then does Gojo open her anime-only cage and allow her to join the rescue party. And now that our mission is set, what better time than to skip past all that nonsense and right over to the beach episode as God intended. And with an anime exclusive jump for joy at that. So to explain how this massive tonal whiplash happened, we casually gloss over the Kuroi rescue mission, but this time with some unique visuals of the moment of rescue, plus what went on inside the plane they took to get there. A plane that is now being shown with a Legend of Zelda dragon flying on the back of it. That was quite the itinerary, and one that we can now see after the flashbacks as opposed to the beginning of the chapter. Of course, the last day hasn't happened yet, so until they get back to the airport, Nanami and Haibara will hold down the fort while their senpai makes fun of the ocean wildlife. Wildlife that Gojo will now use to completely knock Riko on her ass as Geto tells both of them that playtime is over. A sorry moment for a girl that won't get to enjoy good times like this anymore, but at the expense of Gojo's sleep schedule, not to mention Nanami's patience, Gojo wants to make sure that Riko's final days as herself are filled with some mighty fond final memories. And memories they shall make, with a montage sequence that has some extra nature appreciatory moments and wardrobe changes, but altogether is a more than faithful experience. The piano accompaniment here is perfectly fitting, if not making these moments extra sad for Riko, who can only observe these fish swimming any which way while she can only go in the direction that was preset for her. And in only several hours' time, she'll arrive at the crux of that path. Because we all know this mission was destined to have complications, and a fresh stab in the back was only the start of it. This guy really played the long game to get this attack off, but luckily the wound wasn't vital and the counterattack was fast enough to deter Fushiguro right into an anime-exclusive rock, as opposed to landing on the Torii gates. Now I know that might not seem like a big change at first, but you might have noticed that while Geto contemplated letting Gojo handle this on his own, they aren't yet inside the campus grounds in the anime. The Torii gates are still here, but Fushiguro's playground will now be in a foresty area for him to do some jumpy jumps off some nearby trees, as opposed to just doing them in the courtyard. A courtyard which he will get to eventually, just as soon as he's done showing off with all those smear frames. Seriously, with how aggressive this line work is, you can't help but feel like even the world can't keep up with his speed, especially when we need frame blending like this here just to even keep track of him. That being said, it's very smartly paced. With the consistent rubber-like deformation of Fushiguro's design, for eccentric, statement-worthy pose work, you can't help but feel like it's the kind of freeform stuff the 2D medium was made for. That combined with the pan easing and directional blur of the evolving background art, it's impossible to not feel the ludicrous speed and the in-your-face design of Fushiguro's assault. But despite Gojo's back being turned, he's still very much able to use his insurmountable power to pinball him off into a nearby building. But of course, that building is much further away in the anime, meaning that a longer travel time and a few extra paces for Gojo to meet up with his target are in order here. Funny enough, despite those extra paces, Gojo's internal monologue from here on out has had its grammar shortened from the Japanese text a bit, but that just means that we get to see Gojo's blue curse technique all the sooner. This sequence was gifted to us by Keiichiro Watanabe, and like his work with Itadori and his brother versus that creepy tree curse thing, the inspiration of Chinese Tai Chi is very apparent here. Even without all the crazy impressive blobby effect work, Gojo's pose work is all you need to believe the ebb and flow of the power he's directing. But together with that effect work, it really enriches the looseness of these cuts exponentially. The frame timings of these two might be independent of one another, but you can't help but feel the synchronicity of what Gojo has tapped into here, especially with how the background comp sways around with that perceived energy, and a background that will eventually become background animation itself as Gojo's color tears throughout the campus. Mappa's overfocus on hands really does well to sell these scenarios. It was an incredible display, and one that was more than faithful to the manga's unveiling, but as amazing as it looked, it still didn't change the fact that it didn't hit its target. It was just used to get rid of any excessive blind spots that Fushiguro quickly replaced with all these cursed buzzards flying around, which was just enough for him to get in close and break through through Gojo's barrier, which we can now actually see in the anime. The end of this chapter does narrate on how this cursed blade accomplishes as much, but that description will now be voiced by Fushiguro after he's done brutalizing his target. A brutalization that Gojo does manage to stall with an anime-exclusive force push, but was followed in kind with an anime-exclusive kick, leading to another chest strike as well as an extra stab to the head. Because why not? Maybe this was to make up for the fact that we don't really get the same surgical view of the final strike that the manga gave us. Though we do get a much clearer view of Gojo's corpse, after Fushiguro finally talks about his blade's abilities from last chapter. Which brings us to our future victims downstairs. The manga does title this place before Geto tells us later on, but it doesn't take a genius to know that this is where the assimilation will take place. Kudoi certainly does, and that's what makes this farewell between her and Riko all the more difficult. Not just for the two of them, but for Geto as well, who despite being the only one to accompany her to her fate, also gave her the chance to change it with the decision of her own making. Because for Geto and Gojo, this mission became more than a simple escort quest. They've come to really care for her. Repercussions be damned, they'd be remiss if they didn't at least let her make the decision herself. If this anime-only aquarium footage is to be believed, since her childhood, she'd never really had much say in the matter. Which is why it was so tragic that when she was finally given the opportunity to take her fate into her own hands, it was still decided by someone else in the end. I was shocked when I saw this, and I could only imagine the number that it did on Geto, especially after learning that this jujutsu-less monkey was also the very person that just killed his best friend. As for where this newfound despair will land Geto, well, that'll have to wait until next time, because the episode and chapter end right here. Going through that scene again was pretty difficult, but if you like this video, then make sure to give it a like, share it with a friend, and get subscribed for more comparison content like this. Morbid stuff aside, this episode was pretty action-packed, and we're gonna have a lot more like it to talk about in the future. But until that day, I hope every single one of you has a fantastic day. And as always, this is Registry, signing off. Take care, everyone.